Welcome into another edition of the Mason Brooks Show presented by The Rogue. I'm Neil McCready. Mason Brooks here with me today as well as we tape this. It's game week, Ole Miss and Troy on Saturday afternoon, Vaught-Hemingway Stadium at 3 p.m. If you're not making the trip to Oxford, you can catch the game on the SEC Network. My good friend Taylor Zarzer and his crew on the call for the SEC Network on Saturday. This show brought to you by The Rogue, 4450 I-55 North in Jackson. Go to The Rogue. It's your destination for fine men's clothing. Their stylist hand-select pieces from top designers, from work to lifestyle to nightlife. There's the perfect something for everyone at The Rogue. All the best items from Peter Millar, Martin Dingman, Jack Victor, Halsey, True Grit, and more. They've been delivering fine men's clothing for about 55 years. Their classic style, attention to detail, commitment to excellent service continues to make The Rogue a special place to shop. 4450 I-55 North in Jackson or therogue.com. Mason Brooks, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a little bit. I guess the last time that I really saw you, you probably don't remember it because I think you had just kind of gotten concussed in the hour or so before I walked up to you and said, "Hey, you doing okay?" And you're like, "Yeah, I just got my bell rung." I guess turned out to be a little bit more than getting your bell rung, right? You missed about a week and maybe some change of camp.
Yeah, week and some change of camp, which in camp is an eternity. It feels like just with how everything kind of moves and shakes. So definitely not my jam per se, but that's how the game works. So.
Wasn't the way you drew it up? What was that week and some odd like when you can't get out there, you're not cleared yet for contact and that kind of thing? And like you said, in camp, everything. I've been watching Hard Knocks on HBO, right? And the Detroit Lions are a fascinating group. But the one thing you realize is that, like, when the coach walks into the room and he goes, "Hey, I'm not saying these 2 days are really important, but these 2 days are really important." And those kind of days are like that in camp, and you don't get to be out there. What is that like to sort of watch that happen?
It's obviously frustrating. I think a lot of the time when you can't go do something that you love, it's already frustrating. And then at such a crucial time, it kind of adds on. It's been a difficult month, I think, just for me, personally, just getting hurt and things kind of happening like that. And feeling like I'm, obviously not able to play, but, just kind of struggling with, sitting out and trying to stay engaged and also trying to take care of my head and be a supportive player and everything that you can do when you can't do anything. That week was difficult. A lot of fall camp, was kind of difficult for me. The schedule, the whole SEC schedule is it is a big jump, from Conference USA and there's a lot of stuff going on. So I think just especially during that week, I tried to stay as mentally locked in as I could, make sure that I was taking notes and keeping up with the installs. And then, obviously working on my rehab, getting back, getting to bed, taking good care of my brain and supporting those guys. But definitely, when you can't do what you love, it's such a crucial time. It is pretty frustrating, but I try to just, lean on my faith and really, lean on the people around me and here we are on the other side. So just keep moving.
You mentioned it was a big jump up to the SEC from the Sun Belt. In what way, in terms of camps, was it different from a preseason camp standpoint?
Yeah. So I think, the spring, I maybe didn't feel it as much, just because the spring schedules are almost identical. Obviously the level of comp is much higher, but, the schedule that Lane runs and that we run here, I think it's top of the line. But because they have the resources and the different stuff that we can do here, it is very demanding, which is great. I mean, I really feel like every base is covered. And not like it wasn't covered at my last school, but it's so complete. Lane does a great job of, bringing in speakers, all kinds of different speakers to talk to us about different stuff. And the meetings are very in depth and we have walkthroughs and long practices. But I think just for me, as kind of an older guy, it was a little bit of a culture shock, day. Camp is camp is camp. And so, every year you're like, you finish camp, you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. I can do that again. But when you're, day 16 of camp, you're like, oh my gosh, my leg's going to fall off. So definitely a little bit of a, shock, just the, 5 to 9, days, how long the days are, just kind of blended together. Just took me, a couple days to get used to, but once you're in it, you're just in it.
So obviously you start camp as the starting right tackle, and everybody's fighting for jobs and that kind of thing. And you go down in that scrimmage kind of early in that scrimmage. They move Jeremy James, for people who aren't as intimately familiar with the roster as we are. They moved Jeremy James from left tackle to right tackle, which was what he played a year ago when Nick Broker played left tackle. And Jaden Williams, the redshirt freshman, who they have super high hopes for here inside this program, the Ole Miss program, he steps in at left tackle and has a pretty good camp. Could you tell, seeing that was going on, that, hey, my role's probably about to change a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, as a veteran too, it ain't my first rodeo. You can see guys coming on, pretty obviously. And, for whatever reason, the injury or just, what it was, it kind of lined up perfectly. I try to keep the mantra that, like, the best players are going to find their way on the field, and that's just, how it works. And whether or not, I can control everything, I can only control what I can control. Jaden is a hell of a player. Excuse my French. He's got a real.
I've said much worse here on this. You're perfectly good.
He's got a real knack for the game, especially from a balance standpoint. Jaden's really able to move well and also almost always stay on his feet. Even when he loses a block, he's able to recover really well. It's very unique. He's really a freak athlete. And I saw that the day I came here. I was like, this kid is, something special. And I think, he's hurt, and he came out of Conway initially, and I don't know how many people really knew about him. But he's a darn good player. And then obviously Jeremy, as advertised, was a great player last year at right tackle. And when I entered the transfer portal, and I came here, you do the math, and you think you figure out, I'm the best fit here or there, but football is football, and things happen, and that's okay. And understanding that they have a really good right tackle here, and there's good depth. There's good depth everywhere. It's not just at Ole Miss. But having the ability to say, okay, like, this is how it's shaking up. Where do I fit best? Where do they need me? Where can I help? I'm an older guy. I got a ton of experience. Fill me in where we need to. Let me support these younger guys. You're talking about Jaden, potentially rolling out there. Hasn't played, at all yet. I've been there. I played as a true freshman. It's stressful. And so to be able to support guys like that and support, my roommate Jeremy and all 5 of those starting guys and fill in where I need to, whether that's, hammer tight end or, going in when, God forbid someone goes down or just being a, supportive teammate. I think the game of football is very similar to the game of life. And you hear that analogy all the time. But when it actually hits you, it reminds you that it is constantly moving and shaking. And if you, choose to have a bad attitude and kind of drop your head, it will pass you by. And so I'm just trying to keep working and move forward. But this line, I'm telling you, like, I know y'all have heard me say it, and you've heard me say it, but like, and I think you've probably seen it. Like, this line, and I'm not trying to. This line is really good. I'm not from a place of pride, just from a place of skill. This is a very extremely talented line. There are 11 linemen, really, and even the young guys that can go in and really not miss a beat. And coach has kind of been saying that all camp. We got 11 guys. We got 11 guys. There really isn't a drop off. It's kind of crazy. And so really just looking forward to stepping out in the VOD and doing whatever I can and rolling with those guys and just watching everybody work. So,
well, you and I talked about this kind of before we got started. I was telling you, I've been covering college football teams for probably longer than I really care to admit. And I can only remember, and I've covered Auburn as a beat. I covered Alabama basically as a beat one year. I basically covered LSU as a beat writer a couple of years. I've been on this beat forever now. I've only seen 1 year where an offensive line, a unit of 5 guys from the opener through the final game, get through it as one unit. It's just this, you just are coming off of an injury. It's a physical job. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the trenches that you can't really control. A guy rolls up on you, you roll an ankle, you mess up a knee, you get shoulder, you get dinged, you get all that stuff. So being the sixth man on an offensive line, all it means is that you might not take the first snap, but you're taking snaps. I mean, so for you, hey, I've got to be ready to go in at right tackle. If Jeremy has to move over to the left, or if something happens to Jeremy, or if something happens to Jaden, and they're also working you at guard some too. Is it you've been through it a while? Does having all that experience sort of help you prepare for those different roles?
I think it does. Just being around the game long enough, I think bumping inside, where they've really worked me everywhere. Not a whole lot of center. I'm not an amazing snapper, but being able to just be that kind of Swiss Army knife as an older guy, a guy who I think I have a pretty solid pedigree to be able to play anywhere that they really need me. I feel like it's good. I signed it to help Ole Miss, and I think sometimes what gets lost in all this is like I signed to help Ole Miss, like in any regard, and that's what we did. That's what Ole Miss did. They went in the portal and they got help. They filled gaps, and that's my job. I committed to fill gaps, and so wherever there's a gap, I want to fill it, and I want to be there, for this team, because when you have a bunch of guys that say, "Hey, I'm here to fill gaps," and there's not a lot of drop off. You go through a long season, especially the back half of the season is heavy. There's just a bunch of guys that are ready to go to war, and that's how you win a championship, in my opinion. So
Lane Kiffin talked about this a lot, Mason, so much so that I thought it was interesting, and I think you and I might have talked about this on the last Mason Brooks show, but he talked a lot about, hey, you're bringing in all these guys from all these different places, USC and Western Kentucky and Auburn and Mississippi State, and I don't know, I'm leaving places out. There's a bunch of places. And he talked about how, it's not just X's and O's, it's chemistry, and that, you've got to get guys to gel together. And he's talked about that a lot. I asked him about it, I guess, on Friday, and he said it's gotten a lot better. You got a lot of praise for different people. But from your perspective, is this team a little closer now than it was, a month ago when guys were kind of all coming from different places?
Absolutely. Camp will do that. I think I said that in our last show. Camp brings teams together and it moves stuff around. And the unit we have now, I think is the best unit top to bottom on both sides of the ball. But I do feel like just going through camp, especially, in that mock game that we just had, the kind of like scrimmagey week that we just had where we set up like a game week, you could really kind of feel guys, locked in and bought in and seeing like, well, we got weapons, on offense, and we got ball hawks and players on defense. Like we can really go, and it's going to be, how long can we stay together? How can we overcome adversity? Because the tools are there, and coming from a smaller school, I'm not sure what the whole landscape of the rest of the conference looks like. I'm sure every team has, weapons. So to the best of my knowledge, I think it's just going to be a matter of, when we get hit in the mouth, when things aren't going our way, how is this team going to respond? And, based on kind of the fall camp and what Lane's been instilling in us, I'm really excited to see, what happens then, when things aren't going, because when things are going with his squad, things are going. I mean, you've seen it. We got dudes. So.
Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. It can be tough to train your brain. Speaking of brains and getting your mind straight after a concussion, it can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when faced with a challenge in life. But when you learn how to find your own solution, there's no better feeling. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. I've used therapy as a way to handle stress, clear negative thoughts in my life. It was a life changer for me. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and it's entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey. Switch therapist anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, Therapy can help get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/MPW today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/MPW. So you've gone through a camp with kind of two quarterbacks getting a lot of the snaps and stuff like that. And I'm not asking you to break news here. We'll let Lane Kiffin do that. But was that a challenge, or is that something that you guys just sort of acclimated to over the course of the month with both Jackson and Luke getting snaps at the ones?
I mean, I've said it a lot. I'd probably say it again. The way that Lane runs the rotation is so efficient and so seamless that you really don't know who's behind you, and you don't care. They do such a good job, both those cats and Kincaid Dent, and the young guys too. But really Jackson and Luke do a great job of just kind of filling in there, making all the calls. You'll see a great ball go over your head as a lineman. You'll be like, dang, turn around. Oh, that was Luke. Next drive, you'll see another deep ball. Dang, you turn around. Oh, it was Jackson. It's great. Both those guys are competing their butts off and really making each other better, which is what you want to have a quarterback competition. No one's shied up to the challenge. Both guys have really attacked it head on all camp. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. They both look great, and so I'm really happy with where they're at. Both those guys, from a mental standpoint and also from a play standpoint, I think we're in a really good spot.
So throughout camp, everybody on the offensive side has raved about JJ Pegues. I know he was interior, and you're kind of mostly on the exterior. Did you run into him some during the course of camp?
The past week, I've run into JJ Pegues a lot as I've kind of bumped inside, and that's had me have an appreciation. I had an appreciation for the DNs, Cedric Johnson and Tavius, and really even the depth there. But I mean, Cedric Johnson's in rare form. I mean, he's really playing his butt off, and I knew how talented those guys were. But not butting heads with the interior guys a whole lot. You kind of see it in the spring, and you hear those interior guys come on something. Man, there's some war daddies in there, but you get into the paint and you're backing down excuse me, these D tackles, and you're like, wow. JJ's lightning fast off the ball and incredibly strong, and KD Hill, the freshman from Mississippi, I think his name's Zay.
Yeah, Xavier Harris, yeah.
Yeah, they call him Big Baby because he's just a kid. But
he is a massive human being.
He is a massive kid. I remember he slanted in practice, I want to say on Thursday. And I'm pretty, you've seen me, I'm a pretty strong dude. I think I'm a pretty stout dude.
Yeah.
And I'm looking up to this guy, freaking throwing all my weight into him, trying to knock him down. I mean, he is a load. So I mean, yeah, they're thick in there, but JJ makes his presence known for sure. And as a local guy, he just loves playing for Ole Miss, and he loves, coming out every day. Kid's got a great attitude, electric. His smile and just kind of how he plays the game is, very motivating to people around him. So I love JJ, big JJ guy. So
you get your first Ole Miss experience. I know you had the Grove Bowl and stuff, but that's not the same thing. And you've had camp now for a while, which is the grueling part. You kind of start to get the rewards now. You get game day on Saturday. What part of that are you looking forward to the most?
The Grove, this Grove walk, the walk of champions or whatever through the Grove, yeah. Whatever it's
walk of champions called. Yeah.
Everyone talks about it all the time, and I'm excited to experience that. But I'm really just excited to run out there with all these cats. And just watch these guys, ball. I think when you go through a camp and you play each other every day over and over and over, you just kind of want to beat up on somebody else and watch your teammates beat up on somebody else. And I love this team and how they've accepted me and everybody else that's transferred in. And I'm just so excited to see, all these different pieces on offense and defense go out and show out. So I think just the enjoyment of running out there for all these fans, and then just watching these guys work and smiling and having a good time and loving the game and the game part of the game. You're right. That is a reward, and that is, what you work for. But you gotta work. I mean, the work doesn't ever stop. You can't really stop back and smell the roses, but I'm excited to run out there and show how hard we work and what we're about.
I know you've been super busy. Did you even get a chance to even watch snippets of some of the other college games in week 0, I guess is what everyone calls it? Which is such a weird thing when everybody calls it week 0. Like, why is it week 0? Why? But I guess everybody else is week 1. That would be confusing over the course of time. But
before you know it, we're going to be on an NFL schedule. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about 16, 17 games.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what's coming. It is something very similar to that.
Oh no, I don't doubt it. I had to watch my boys. West Kentucky, the week 0, couple of week 0 Cats playing Austin P. So definitely tuned into that game. It was pouring rain about halfway through the game, which sounds about like Bowling Green. But it's great to if you like rain, Bowling Green is the spot, man. It rains there like 200 days a year. So of course it rains, very on brand. But they got a victory, and it was great to see all my old teammates out there balling, and that makes me happy too. No love lost there. My first love, that the school that they gave me all that. And so it was great to watch them. And then I watched a little bit of that Vandy Hawaii game, out there in the islands, I guess. But that was really, really cool to watch. I think they're redoing their stadium. So it was like a smaller stadium, and it was really packed. And so we watched a little bit of that there at the end. But those are really the 2 games I caught in this week 0, week 1 fake real week game thing. So
yeah, it's I always when people kept calling it week 0, because we do this like picks thing and at rebelgrove.com, and I was like, I'm not doing that because that's going to be confusing. We're just going to wait for week 1. And so everybody's like, why aren't you picking week 0? I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. Just I'll wait for week 1. Do want to tell you that we're also brought to you by Liston & Dees. It's a full-service law firm located in Ridgeland, Mississippi. Focuses on complex civil litigation. Liston & Dees' clients include individuals, businesses, and state governments throughout the United States. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. I know you got stuff to do. You moved into your new place with your roommates there. It's probably a certain level of chaos, and about to get rolling with game week and all of that. So we wish you the best. Look forward to seeing you play on Saturday and talking to you about it as we get ready for another edition of the Mason Brooks Show next week. So again, we're brought to you by The Rogue, 4450 I-55 North in Jackson, or therogue.com. For Mason Brooks, I'm Neil McCready. We'll be back next week with another edition of Mason Show. Until then, take care.